always get it. The OGs always told me what I start, I gotta finish. So I push it to the limit, so I can be the greatest. So I can look my family in their eyes and say we made it. Don't let life hand you nothing, you just gotta go take it. Always keep it 100, don't ever let me catch you faking. Keep a close eye on your circle.
Hey, y'all, welcome to the Post Prison Podcast. I'm your guy, businessman and entrepreneur, Darryl. Joining me today, this week, who's back with us, our sister, Cynthia Brady. Also, our young hog, Mr. Durell Green, is back with us again. Today, we have two powerhouse sisters who joining us today for a substantive conversation. Mrs. DeAndrea Williams and Miss Myesha Mosley. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to joining us for a substantive conversation. Maybe we should have been taping a little earlier, but I'm excited to get into it nonetheless. A little housekeeping. We ask y'all to continue to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube at Post Prison Podcast. You could also email us at postprisonpodcast@gmail.com. if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or topics you're interested in hearing. So before I let Miss Myesha and Miss DeAndrea Williams speak, I'm gonna give you guys a little update on who they are and a short bio, starting with Myesha Mosley. She's the founder of Miss My Presents, grew up in Bremerton, Washington, and has been here since '88. She spent time in the churches, in the schools, and all aspects of Kitsap County. She moved away for a little while to California and moved back to be closer with her family after the birth of her son. Her business, Miss My Presents, has been putting on shows and events in Kitsap County for 6 years. Our other sister here, Mrs. DeAndrea Williams, affectionately known as Dee, is a wife, a mother of 3 boys, a Mimi, I guess that means grandma of 3. She's a mortgage professional, community supporter, fashion and fitness enthusiast. I can definitely co-sign for that. And she's rediscovering her life as an empty nester. Not totally empty nest yet. Her favorite quote is, "Don't let past failure get in the way of future success." So, good evening, ladies. Starting with you, Miss Myesha. Want to say hello to the people and pass it over to Dee.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. I've been following you from the beginning, so I'm just honored to be on this podcast.
Mrs.
And
Williams.
Same here. I've been following the podcast from the beginning. Miss Cynthia and our family, Mama Cent, and Durell, nice. Thank you for having me. Nice to officially meet you. Darryl and I, good friends. We go back and forth sometimes, like we go back and forth. That's my brother. But I am happy to be here.
Yeah, well, they can put that on my tombstone.
We go back and forth. A lot of us went back and forth.
Yeah, but it's all about learning. Today's topic, today's conversation with you, Will, it won't be a topic by the time we get through. Is I can't teach my son to be a man, and how this came about. DeAndrea, myself, Myesha, and another young lady had the opportunity to go sailing over to Blake Island. Do some top shelf stuff. And we found ourselves engaged in conversations about youth, community, what can we do, where do we stand in the community, just a whole lot of good substantive conversation, learned a lot about them. And Myesha made a comment, I think we were talking to her about her son and things that he's going through, little Mason, and she said, well, I can't teach my son to be a man. And it just struck something in my mind. And I initially had been having conversations with DeAndrea as well about her 3 boys. We kind of chop it up about them because you guys, well, DeAndrea's not a single mother, but Myesha is. And I have an affinity for the way that female mind, that single mother female mind works. because I watched my mother struggle as a single mom for a long time. So I wanted to have a discussion on that, why she thought that way, why she felt that way, and bring Dee on as well. So, Miss Cynthia, we want to welcome you back. You've been doing the graduation thing and taking care of the grandbabies and funerals and all that, and missed you on last week. Durell, back to see you in. So let's just jump right into it. Our conversations probably gonna lead us a few places, so y'all just hold on to your seats for a minute, and we'll figure it out. So there are a lot of statistics on single moms, but I just want to say, as a disclaimer, we aren't out here to discount anybody's contribution to the lives of anyone. We all want to learn from this. Everything's new. So if you hear anything you got a problem with, just send us an email and we'll try to clarify those things. But the first question is, I guess we'll start with you, Myesha, since you made the comment. Why do you agree that a woman can't teach a boy to be a man?
Well, to clarify, I felt that I can't teach my son to be a man. I can, show him how to be a good person, show him how to, an example of what a good person is, the things that he should and should not do, right and wrong, how to, tap into his senses, things like that. But as far as actually being a man, I'm not a man. So that is not something that I can teach him how to do. And so that's just really how, I felt about that. Like I can show him all the right things, show him all the, values, morals, things like that. But as far as teaching him to be a man, I ain't got that.
Well, the reason we got to this space in the first place, and the reason it struck me, and we'll go to Cynthia after this before we let Dee answer the question. A lot of times Father's Day just passed, and I would see a whole lot of women, single women, want Father's Day cards. My mom used to do that. I even saw something on Instagram that the lady said we should stop with the Happy Father's Day because it insults single mothers. So I kind of found the ideology behind this going in the wrong direction. So I really wanted to talk about, and I guess we got caught up in raising and teaching. But I want to say to you, Cynthia, what do you think about that ideology of mothers being celebrated on single mothers being celebrated on Father's Day? And then we'll let Dee come behind you and answer the question.
I really don't have a problem with it, like them celebrating it, but we know, literally speaking, that a woman is not a man, and that basically she can't teach a boy how to be a man. She can teach him all the factors of being a good human being, as in giving him good values, like my just said, and giving him morals and standards to live by. But when it comes to when he's dealing with his testosterone, or when he's dealing with emotional, because we as women, we get emotional, and with men, you guys are more thinkers. So we're hyped up and we're using our emotions. And with the female, she can dig that and she can understand it. With a man, he shuts down because he doesn't know how to deal with all of that. A man could teach a boy how to deal with those type of situations as he mature and get to a certain age. But as far as people saying Happy Mother's Day, I feel like it's like, I don't know, it's just something to do. But in all actuality, a woman knows that she's not a father. She should know that.
Well, Dee, let's hear what you say about teaching your son to be a man.
I don't think I can. Well, I don't even know if it's what I think. I know that I can't teach my sons to be a man. I have 3 sons, 26, 22, and 17. And there's a point where I can, like Myesha said and Miss Cynthia said, I can raise them. teach them how to be gentlemen, teach them how to open the door, you know, try to be compassionate, try to teach them to be considerate of women and, you know, don't be running around and doing all those things. But even with those things, because I can only teach them from a woman's perspective and what that feels like for us. I can't teach them or even explain to them what it's like coming from a man or what a man is thinking when he's doing those things. Or, you know, men are, their nature is to provide and protect. I was a provider and a protector for 9 years because I was a single mother for 9 years. But the way that I provided and protected was a lot different than how a man would do it, and the pressure that a man feels when it comes with doing it. So I did a good job, I want to say, up until 9 years. But as we reached some points in my son's lives, especially the older two, it was very important to have a man around to teach some things and for them to be able to bounce some things off of. When it comes to the Father's Day thing, that was never my thing. I was blessed that I have two wonderful fathers in my life, my stepfather and my father. I always celebrated my kids' fathers, whether they were in my life or not, they were still their father. So whether they showed up consistently or not, we still celebrated them. It was never my day. I had Mother's Day and I was good with it.
Well, you just kind of helped with a little shift that we could talk about, and I can let Durell lead into that. You said it was important. You felt at a certain point it was important to have a man around, a strong man around your sons. And one of the things that struck me about this initial conversation, and Darryl kind of alluded to it during our little combustion pre-conversation, it's almost seemed like it's an intentional effort by a lot of single women to devalue the man's role in the lives of these children and use them as pawns. And I'm only speaking from my experience. I think that happened with my mom. You know, I think she loved my father, but her scars did a lot to try to devalue his place in my life. And I see that consistently in a lot of ways. And a lot of times it's done not with my malice intent, you know, but it is harmful. What are your thoughts on that, Durell?
I think there's a lot of levels to touch that conversation on so quickly as possible. I think even if you look back to the last episode and we were talking about divided we fall, I think it was mentioned, you know, like one of the first plays in Divide and Conquer is to destroy the Black family. And I don't think that it happened on my mom's part on purpose. I think that she was a woman that was going through a lot, and my dad was not being, you know, a man by what the definition I understand it to be now. And so she had to make do. So she used to be like, I'm the mom and the dad, you know, and I think a lot of parents from, you know, the generation that was raising me adopted that philosophy out of necessity, you know, but in real life, you can't be the mom and the dad, just like a dad can't be the dad and the mom. And something that Miss Cent said earlier about how men are supposed to be thinkers and not as emotional, that my generation, not true. And maybe it's because a lot of us were raised by women and we never learned how to be thinkers and we reacted emotionally. And when you look at all the killings that happened, the shootings that happen over stuff that don't even be making sense like that, you know, stats used to say when I was a kid, you know, if you didn't have a dad in the house, it was worse off for you. And I can tell you, I only had one or two friends that had dads around, and we used to make fun of them. Like when all the guys was together, we made fun of them for having dads, and would disqualify like their life stories and their experience because they had dads in the house, you know, and we're like, we just have moms. And it was always seen as a luxury to have a father, you know, like, because a lot of us didn't know what that was like. And I think one of the reasons why Dee understands that the way she do is because she mentioned having two healthy, positive relationships with older men in her life. And when you have that, you realize how impactful it is. When you never had it, you're taught to be like, well, we didn't need it because we made it anyway without that. so a father isn't necessary. And I think that we just kind of like, especially my generation, we just really leaned into that. Well, you don't need a dad because they ain't here. Bills are still paid some kind of way. You know, we still made it some type of a way. And we lean into the understanding that what a man does is, if I'm just there and like I'm an aggressive presence sometimes, that's all I needed to do, because a woman then took care of me my whole life and enabled me to not assume certain man responsibilities. And that's the way that, you know, I read it. And I'm not trying to generalize everybody, but I can speak for a lot of a generation where that's kind of what happened. Is like, we grew up a little bit more emotional than we probably should be, and we weren't responsible because we always would look up, oh, there's a big mama. Big mama takes care of everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's never like that patriarch, that male that's like leading the family how he's supposed to, doing things. A woman's always taking that mantle. In some years back, and I'm gonna be quiet in a second, we took it on ourselves, you know, me and some of my brothers, to get all of our moms together for Mother's Day. And you know, we didn't even know they all knew each other and all that, but we all cooked for them, we served them, and we celebrated them. And we had to tell them, look, there's responsibilities that old women and families are taking on that men should be dealing with. You shouldn't be having to chase, you know, little cousin or all this down the street and have all this extra stress on your plate. You're an elder. We're supposed to learn from you, get counsel, but there's things that you're dealing with that men should be dealing with. And we apologized to him and said we was going to be better. And I still stand on that. There's a lot of responsibilities that young boys that think they're men but don't know what that is yet, they're not assuming the correct responsibilities, and they need a man to come alongside and teach them to even know what you're supposed to be accountable for, so that the women can be the women that they're supposed to be and be powerful and influential, and the men can do the same thing on their end. But they can't keep carrying our responsibilities because it ain't fair.
Well, Durell, let's be fair and say and realize the fact that we had a generation and a half, almost two, of Black men that were incarcerated or killed by the war on drugs. So that's what really created the gap where the sisters had to be in the house. You know what I'm saying? Because, like you said, we was doing other things.
He
Myesha.
said something else too that I want to touch on, when he said about that the men were emotional, but the emotion that you spoke on was anger. That's a displaced emotion. Do you understand that? That's a secondary emotion. When it comes to people really relating to emotion, we talking about a person being able to cry when they need to cry, or being able to understand the difference in how they're supposed to be feeling at the time, is when I speak on emotional stuff. Reacting and responding is two different things.
Duly noted. And these little boys is out here crying while they shooting their friends too. But I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree.
But they're mad.
All right, we're gonna move to question 2 because we got a lot more to discuss. Myesha, did you always think like that when your son was little? Were you ever in a place to think that I got it, I can handle this, I need to do all this? Because when we had this conversation, you were talking about some things that he was probably dealing with as a young boy that you had no clue how to necessarily identify from your space. So did you always feel like you were in that space, or did you have to come to that fruition some type of way?
I mean, I've always known that I can't teach him. I've always known that I'm a mom and he is my son. And there are just things that I can't teach him certain things. And so I've always had that realization. And so I feel like sometimes I've been a little rougher on him because I'm like, oh, you're not going to be no punk. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I had to kind of be a little, not as soft with him because I didn't want to be like, oh, well, you're a mama's boy, or you're soft because you were raised by your mom. So I always felt like I was made to be a boy's mom. You know what I'm saying? Because I've just been a little tougher on him. Like, I talk to him nicely, but I'm not super coddling. I'm coddling when I need to be. And I feel like sometimes maybe I should be a little more sensitive to what he's going through. But at the same time, not necessarily I'm an older mom, but I had him when I was older. And not to say anything about people that had kids young or whatever, but a lot of parents that are my age that have kids his age, they're younger, they're the younger of the kids. So like a lot, I'm in my 40s and I have a 15-year-old. A lot of parents that are my age have 20-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? They have older kids. So I was older having a child. So I feel like I wasn't, not to say anything, but I wasn't like a kid raising a kid. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know any other way to say it. And so I just feel like I am a little tougher on him because my parents were tough on me. My mom's from Louisiana, my stepdaddy from Chicago. They was, you know what I'm saying? It was, you listen, you're seen, not heard. But I have to also remember it's different now. You know what I'm saying? I have to find that mix. And he's a boy. But I've always known that no, I can't, you know what I'm saying? I can't teach him to be a man. I've always had that realization, which like I said, it may have been a good or a bad thing because I might have been a little rough on him, but
Well, Cynthia, we didn't get your response on do you feel you can teach, or do you feel women can teach boys to be a man?
Oh no, definitely not. Not the thing is that the only way I could see that even happening is if a boy is in touch with his feminine side without being feminine. If you're talking about in that aspect, because other than that, there's certain things that males go through growing up that we just don't have. I mean, I remember my son coming to me about certain things, and I'm like, whoa. and I'm trying to explain to him, or having to look up something or whatever to try to explain to him about certain things. This is something that should have came from his father, that he should have learned those things from his dad. And my said she was kind of tough on her son. I think I was too light on my son. I think I was tougher on my daughters, and that's why they get a little hardcore. I guess it probably was because of me being a single mother. I knew I had to be raw in order to take care of my kids and not be done dirty or done a certain type of way. And I was their protection. And not only my kids, but a whole bunch of kids in the community, I was their protection.
Okay, well, Miss Deandra, you say you had strong men in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when did you get to that point, or did you always realize that you couldn't handle it all? Because I know there were times when you was out here by yourself as a single mom, and when did it click for you?
So twofold. When Myesha spoke earlier about, so I was a young mom. I had my first son when I was 19. So I had my oldest when I was 19. And I think the next one was at 23 or 24. And so for 9 years, it was just the three of us. So my perspective on everything was totally different. For one, life experiences, relationships, and things you have dealt with, you move different. So I had it. I didn't need nobody. I didn't need anybody. Even though I had men in my life, I felt like I had my grandfather who was amazing. And he was truly the patriarch of our family. I had my dad. So I didn't need anybody else or anything else, but I didn't live at home. So I was in my own home with my children. So they did not have a man in the home. And even when I married my husband, or when my husband came into the picture, and I was 28 or 29 when I had my youngest, I had a hard time letting go. One, those were my kids. And I don't need you, don't say, I didn't want you to say anything to my kids. I have this. I will discipline them. They've been good. When he met me, he was like, "Oh, your kids are so good." Okay, so they're good because I did that. I don't need you in here, doing things. But then conversations with my mom and my dad. They were like, if this is going to be the man that you're with and you have a child with him, there can't be any differences. And my husband said the same thing. He was like, when I married you and when I came in the picture, I knew you had kids. So those are my kids. I don't, and we're not doing this separate. I'm not treating them different. Everybody's getting the same discipline. Sometimes I felt like he was harder on the youngest one than the older two, but that could have been because of me. I don't know. But I had to relax. I had to let him have a say in some things. I had to let him be hands-on because I got it. Even when it came to taking them to practice, because my kids always played sports. I got it. You ain't got to take them, or I'd find somebody else to help me. I think, I was living in Louisiana at the time and my grandmother was there. And when I would go to work and do things and we were living together, I would still take them to my grandmother's house and he'd be like, I'm off today. What are you doing? I was like, this is just our routine and this is what we do. He was like, but I'm here now. I'm here to help you. I had a hard time taking the help. I had a hard time letting him be the man of the household because, for one, I'm a daddy's girl and I'm a guy's girl. So my dad was always, whether this is right or wrong, he always talked to me, you want a man, you don't need a man. So that was very stuck in my head. I need to be able to take care of everything myself because if you get to tripping, I can easily, do what I have to do and me and my kids are going to be good. So maturing, my mentality had to change. I had to relax a little bit.
Well, I know a lot of women who operate from the space that you spoke of. Don't say nothing to my kids. I don't care what they doing. They could be running down the street with a gun. Don't say nothing to my kids. And I think that's when it becomes extremely harmful. For me, it's very rare for me to hear you guys say what you guys say. It's very rare. I know a lot of women that have sons from coast to coast. And they, like you said, I got it. Let me just say this to you. And I'm gonna ask everybody to offer this piece of advice because there are a lot of statistics that probably lean towards the fact that we should probably work harder on these type of situations to where a lot of women intentionally keep their kids from the fathers. And what a piece of advice, Cynthia, as a professional in this field of social work, what advice would you give young mothers, or not necessarily young mothers, who got a combative relationship with the child's father? What advice would you give them in terms of how to get past that or how to get around that? Because you know a lot of people in that situation.
I've seen it a lot where even in the court of law where they break up the families and they take the kids and then they make the female and the male end up fighting over who's gonna get the kids, and one person got to win, somebody got to lose, and that's not the way they should go in the court system. First of all, it shouldn't go in that way. If there's an issue where two people then lay down and had a baby, they need to be trained how to co-parent, period. They need to have that training. If you're going to invest in something, invest in them being the best parents that they both can be to that child, because that child needs them both. And so if any advice I would get is that for them to lay down their feelings about each other and understand that their child is their biggest investment. And if you want your child to end up being the best that they can be, and you feel that they're that important to you, lay aside the foolishness and all those ill feelings you have with each other, get some counseling and make that work in co-parenting that child and loving that child respectively.
Well, Durell, I want to come to you with a response to this, because like she said, it's actually harming the kids. And if you look at the statistics, 90% of the men that get in trouble and go to prison or off drugs or who are overly sexually active are raised by single moms. That's not to say single moms aren't great people. That just says that at a certain point, young men don't have no barriers. Young men don't feel threatened by their mom no more. So Durell, what's your thoughts on that? How we can close the gap on those situations, because we got to figure it out. A lot of these young lives are leaving here because of that very aspect.
Yeah, I think when I talk to young people, which I do a lot, and I do on a professional level, one thing that helped me with my personal transition was understanding the history of everything, and that what I was experiencing wasn't exclusive to me, and it wasn't an accident. We can go back to slavery, we can go to crack, we can go to welfare and Section 8 benefits. It's always been incentivized
Mhm.
to break up the black household. And that's this country's history. And you have to understand, like, why would they do that? And the reason why is to produce the results that we're having, the statistics that you're talking about right now. And so when I understood, that I was playing along with my actual enemy, and my enemy wasn't the black person that was, I was looking at, that I could physically punch them in the face. I couldn't punch, like discriminatory laws and different things like that. Racism. I can't beat up racism. You know what I'm saying? I can't beat up all these other type of things. So I'll fight my other brother that's in the same position as me. Like, so I really think, education is a big part of how I approach it from the beginning, but it's not like education, like go to college and different things. Like, I was raised from when I was a boy, to understand, like, to look at life and see what it actually is. And I believe that that's a place that we start. Um, and that can help us start to move in the correct direction. But like we said earlier, when I was given all this information when I was a boy, all it did was make me angry. Like, I
Mhm.
understood, oh, it's not fair. Like, I don't know who else in here got told, oh, you black, so you're gonna have to work twice as hard to get even less. And as a kid, the way I received that was like, oh, that sounds like some bullshit. I ain't doing that. Like, and so, like, what my parents didn't understand, what they was doing is, like, by giving me that information, you're about to make it criminal. Because I'm not going to work and struggling. I'm not going to work and doing that so I could get less and get discriminated against. And to me, that's what I thought a man was like, I'm gonna do it my own way. I'm not gonna conform to this or this. And some of those things are still traits that help me to this day. But when you put that on the plate of a 12-year-old or something, it becomes a dangerous recipe, because I have no life experience. I have no guidance to, know how to deal with this. And that's where I really could have used, like, a father that understood that my mind might be going to these other places. Like, my mom did a lot, but like I used to tell her when I was a kid, you've never walked outside and been a black male in America before. And I can't explain to you how that feels at certain times. Just like I can never tell you what it feels like to be a woman and then go outside. Like, if you look at the news and stuff, I thank God all the time. Like, I'm a male. Wow. Like, I'm glad, because I might be afraid to be around males if I was a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, because of just how our society is. And I don't know if y'all heard this saying, but they say we raise our daughters and then we protect our sons. You know what I'm saying? Because black moms be like, oh, don't dress that way. You go outside, the police gonna do this to you. You might get killed. You go to jail. And black moms worry about so much stuff when it comes to their sons. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then the son, like, what am I putting? My mom is panicking. I think I got it because I'm like, oh, I'm a man. But I got it off of nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like I think I got it. You know what I'm saying? Because I think I'm supposed to be a man. And so, like, those are the things, like, just educating, on, like, the history, and people figuring out what roles that you're gonna play when you're raising your children, because I really think that the United States government has done a great job of dividing the man and the woman and terrifying the woman of what's going to happen to the black man. She's scared what's going to happen to her brother and her uncle. So she's going to be even more protective of her son. That's going to restrict him from even being like the type of man that he need to be, like, to not be afraid of these people when you go outside. Because that's what was important to me. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to talk about the solutions because there's so many elements to it, like
So many problems.
a lot of us think we turned to be men when we were in prison. And I'm gonna tell you that prison does not raise a man or teach a man how to be a man any better than a woman can. And a woman will teach you how to be a man better than what prison can. Because prison, all you're gonna learn is survival, violence, take advantage of people as best as you can, and be a selfish person. And none of those characteristics are things that exhibit what a man should be like. But a lot of us from my generation, that we're like, oh, the streets raised us and prison did, and we had to allegedly be a man when you're in the street and be a man when you're in prison. And I guarantee you I was not a man until years after I was done with both of those things. I just was a lost boy doing whatever lost boys do.
Well, listen, I'm gonna spin this last question around, and I'm gonna start with you, Myesha. And I want you to. I know Cynthia and Dee have a relationship with their dad. I'm not sure what your situation is. We never discussed that. But the question is, how did your relationship with your dad, or lack thereof, contribute to how you think about this issue today?
So my stepdad was around from when I was very young. And like I said, he was from Chicago. So he was a little rougher. My mom from Louisiana, so I had that. But no, he was around. We did daddy-daughter dates. He taught me how to roller skate, open the door. The woman's supposed to walk on the inside of the sidewalk. Man's supposed to walk on the outside. He didn't necessarily use those words. I'm not going to say how the analogy that he actually gave me. But like I said, he's from Chicago. But I mean, he was there, and even when he and my mom split, he was still around. So it wasn't that I didn't have a male presence. I did, and like I said, those are the things that I show my son. You walk on the outside, open the doors. When we would go on mommy-son dates, and I would give him my debit card and let him, pay. He would order for me. He would do all the talking to, the waitress and all those things, and just be in life. So, yeah, my stepdad was there for me. So I did have that father figure, and that definitely contributed to how I am with my son.
Mrs. Williams?
I had had a great relationship with both of my fathers. From what I can remember, I've always been a daddy's girl. So I grew up in Louisiana, between here and Louisiana most of my life. And my biological father was always a presence. Then I moved up here, and my mom remarried, and my stepdad, and it's so weird to even say because we don't use the term stepdad. That is my dad. And he took on the responsibilities from day one, combing my hair to get ready to go to school. Like, he did everything. I couldn't have asked for a better lot of men in my life, period. From my grandfather to my father, to my dad, even to the relationships I was in. I'm not saying they were good relationships for me, but they were good guys. Like, I have 3 baby daddies, if we just want to put it all out there. But from my oldest son's father to my middle son's father, I'm married to my husband now. They were good dudes. The relationships worked between us, no. But were they good people? I feel like they were good people. Did they have some things that they were going through, life circumstances that made them make different decisions, may have caused some inconsistency with their son? Yes, but they were always good people. So, and good men. And they were good men. They were the men that they knew how to be at that time. And I've seen all of them grow to be greater men. So I have maybe a soft spot in my heart for men. And I feel like as women, we should encourage them. And I know as Black women, we always got that thing, we're carrying the man. And I don't think we're carrying them. I think they should uplift us and carry us as much as we do them. It should be like a reciprocal thing. And I think a lot of times we tend to tear our men down when the relationships don't work. So when the relationship doesn't work, we tear them down, and then they shy away from being a father. And I'm not saying that that's our fault, because regardless, that's your kid. But some of them, because they haven't had someone in their lives to show them how to deal with those things, they just walk away. So I don't know. I just think I've been blessed to have wonderful men throughout my life. And I think it's a family effort, because as Durell said, the Black family from the beginning has been a structure that has been constantly torn apart, from slavery through the induction of welfare, Section 8, like you said, everything. It's supposed to be non-existent. One thing I can say is that recent studies have shown that it's increasing a little. There are more Black fathers and men in the home. So I think as we continue to work together, love and encourage each other, and they help us to become better women, stronger women, ladies, we can do the same for them.
Cynthia, I know you got a pretty tight relationship with your dad, right?
We have a good relationship now, but it hasn't always been like peachy hunky dory now. And I've always respected him because I was a little scared of him. But when I was younger, he used to play with me a lot. I remember tickle me and all this stuff, and I used to have a lot of fun with him. I remember even being told that, and I kind of had this vision or whatever, remembrance of it, where I got into some bleach. And I remember he ran me all the way from the east side of Pasco all the way to the west side to the hospital to make sure that I didn't die. And so I know my dad loved me, but him and my mom fought over us a lot. It was like a war going on between them about who was going to have custody of us. And it was just bad. It was a lot of bad. But I had some good male role models. My grandfather, him and my grandmother was together for years. And I watched how he was with her. And my step grandfather, because my mom's dad died when she was pregnant with me. So my grandmother remarried, and Papa Gus was a good man. I mean, I watched her with a good man as well. So I seen some good male role models in my family. Me and my dad didn't really get super, super close until probably like I was in my 40s. That was the first time I heard my dad say that he loved me. And like he didn't have that expression of like how fathers is with their daughters. And I think it was because he had just fought so much with my mom that he just kind of gave up or something. But it was a situation where I started thinking about what the Bible says about respect your parents, and give them honor. And so this is in the midst of me getting in trouble. And I think I was getting ready to go in the drug court, or it might've been before that. And I wrote an article. I had an article written that went to the Tri-City Heralds, and it was honoring my dad. And in me honoring my dad, I talked about the era he grew up in and how racist the Tri-Cities was and how they badmouthed my dad and his family a lot. But then my dad overcame all of that, worked for Boise Cascade for 30-something years, and how he proved himself as a man. And I felt that the Tri-Cities owed him basically an honor and an apology. And so my dad was in awe of that. This is where we started really being close, because on his birthday, the article was in the Tri-City Sun. My stepmother took him the article and read it to him, because at that time his eyesight was kind of going a little bad in one eye. And he got a phone call from the Tri-City Heralds, the head guy that used to run the Tri-City Heralds. And he asked him, did he see the article? And my dad didn't know about the article yet. And he told him, he said, somebody wrote a really nice article and it was your family, because I put all of our family last names on there and stuff. And they said, he said, it was really, really honorable. And I just wanted to call you and tell you that you have, what he say, he gave him some good honorable words and inspiring words and different stuff like that. That meant a lot to my dad, for this man to respect him, finally respect him, which meant a lot to me. And I think that's when me and my dad started really, really getting close. And yes, now we talk a lot on the phone. I go visit him and we have a good relationship.
Well, that's good.
And no, I think he was an influence even on my son in a certain type of way, because I have a lot of half brothers and sisters, but I don't call them my half brothers and sisters. I just say they're my brothers and sisters because I love them. My dad had a lot of kids by a lot of different women, and my son did the same thing. So it's like almost like tracing footsteps or generational curses or whatever you want to call them, following in those footsteps. As a woman, though, I've been around some men that were real gentlemen and real men, and they showed me what it is to be treated like a lady.
Well, Durell, Cynthia touched on something a minute ago, in her advice to the mothers of young sons, and as a person who counsels young men, what message would you give to mothers who just seem to be having a tough time, not with the father wanting to be around, but using the kid in a situation where it harms the child, and nobody gets a chance to think about the child because they're so caught up in the emotions of the relationship. That happens quite often. What would be your advice in that situation?
I really do not want to give advice to women in that situation. Unfortunately, though, with things that be going on in life, I've been in that position, and what I say is that we've all been through a lot, and we all have different traumas with our parents, and that kind of informs us how we act with our children, and we have to understand, like, to me, when you have children, you're not the number one priority no more. And you got to really think about what's going to be the best for this child, like, and who's going to be the person to step in the gap and end the BS that's going on in our family. And I really think that there's a strong calling on my generation in particular to be the ones, like, we going to assume the responsibility and be like, we're stopping this here. We're not going to let this keep going. We have the information. We see what the stats are. Do we want to continue to participate in that? Or are we going to do something different? And I don't know if your situation looked like Miss Cynthia, like, go get some therapy. I don't know if your situation looked like you got some daddy and some mommy issues yourself, and you need to talk to your people before they expire and they're not here no more and they die with them issues. So you keep living with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever your situation is, I would encourage people, like, to really, I don't know what co-parenting looks like. I know the way that a family is supposed to be, and I think it gets lost, that we don't keep the village mentality, and I can't remember if you said that recorded or if you only said it when we was having our pre-talk, but I really believe that it takes a village, and that's my philosophy. And your village need to have men and women in it. It need to have, people that are close in age to your children, but a little bit older than them. They can talk to them, you know what I'm saying? And, like, that's what a village is, you know what I'm saying? And you have to be intentional about building your village. Otherwise, your kid gonna build their own village. And we've tried that. They started calling us a gang.
Absolutely.
When you go build your own village outside of what your parents then gave you. So, like, you got to be intentional about everything, and you have to realize, like, there's different mental health illnesses. They're more prevalent than what they were when I was a kid, and when y'all was kids. Like, people is dying, and whether they're killing themselves, whether they're being killed by their peers. Like, it's real out here. You don't got time to be sitting around, like parents be saying, like, oh, I'll chill. When my kids get older, they'll come to me. They'll understand. You don't know if you got to your kid turn 18 for them to come to you, and you just let the relationship just be bad with their mom and be bad with your kid, and you're like, they'll figure it out later and come to me. Like, we ain't got time for that. Like, you needed to repair this yesterday. And so there just needs to be a sense of urgency, and you know, you gotta I think for a lot of us, we gotta address our own mommy daddy issues first, and that'll help us, you know, as our generation, as we're trying to be parents, you know, to the young people that we're raising, because we pass down a lot, and you might not realize what you're passing down.
Yeah.
I was mad at my dad, and my mom was mad at my dad. So what kind of adult was I gonna be, you know, when it got time for me to be a man? You know, the only man that I was supposed to love kind of hate this person. And that's been cultivating for years, and that seed's been watered. You know what I'm saying? So how do I even think, you know, there's a lot of poison that we cultivate in our community. We just gotta, you know, be cognitive of what we're doing and take steps to go the other way.
Well, Durell, I appreciate you, Myesha and Mrs. DeAndrea Williams. I don't even know if I ever called you DeAndrea. I'm definitely glad that we got uh, teach versus raise, or instruct versus raise, out the way, because we had a little combustible conversation going on here in a minute. But I think everybody meant well, and I think there was some substantive information going back and forth. I would just say that you know, we can't forget about these kids. We've run across so many kids that are in such bad shape, and they're caught up in between these relationship problems, and we stuck on the outside and can't really say nothing. But I thank you guys for that opportunity. It helped me in a lot of ways I look at things as well. So, Myesha, you want to say goodbye to the people? You and DeAndrea, Cynthia, you can leave us with a piece before you go as well.
Just thank you for having me on and allowing me to add to the conversation. I'm glad that my comment had sparked this conversation. It's definitely one that needs to be had, whether it's just talking about our youth in general, because I've got a 15-year-old boy, and it's hard out there for them. They need us, whether they're boys, girls, black, white. I mean, definitely our black boys. Number one, our black boys. They are black and brown boys. They need us. So just any conversation that is, you know, talking about, you know, what our youth need, it's needed. So I thank you, and I'm glad I was able to get this conversation sparked.
Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be a part of the conversation. I actually learned a lot. So this was good. I would say the question that Durell didn't want to answer to the women, and I'm not really answering it for them, but it's just a piece of advice or something I learned. And it's hard. And I'm not saying it like it's easy, because it's hard. It was hard for me to separate the relationship with me from the relationship with the child, because there's anger and there's hurt. There may have been some betrayal along the way. And sometimes as women, I'm not going to say all women, I can say sometimes as me, you get to a point where you're like, well, to her, I'm going to get you back. And a way to get you back is to, well, you can't see him. And you ain't going to see him if that chick over there, you know, I got like that. I can't say I got like that. But there were some times I just had to express myself to the father, maybe even act a fool a little bit, but come on and get your son. Your daddy, you're going with your daddy. Like, I did that. I may have sent him with his daddy and then went and cried because I was upset, but I knew that it was important for my son to have some type of relationship with his father.
That's very good. Cynthia?
Yeah, thank you guys for showing up and showing out. I just wanted to say that this was a good topic, and there is no like one size fit all solution, But I just would like to say that if a woman or a man is having those troubles, and say you're going through certain situations, like say with CPS or courts or anything, and they're trying to break your family up, ask them about putting you guys into counseling, that you can do counseling together, and also try to develop a family plan that you can do things together, but also do things separately with your child. That way that child cannot grow up thinking that it's loved by one person, or they're the reason why the breakup is happening. Because a lot of times kids believe that the parents is the reason why the split up is happening. So I would just ask you to reach out and make sure that if the state want to be in your business, that they are taking care of you the right way and taking care of your child the right way.
Brother D, you want to leave us something other than that fist in the background?
I just appreciate everybody that chose to speak on this with us. It's a big topic, and I know that we all value our Black children, and our Black children, you know, they need us as the village. So I just appreciate y'all for being part of that village, and being willing to come on and speak like this. And thank you. And I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all as well. Kind of the substantive conversation I had. There's a whole lot of that came out of this. We started before we got on with a whole bunch of stuff I got written down about taking the conversation forward. So again, thank you all. I appreciate y'all. You know, we definitely gonna stay tapped in. To all of you all that's listening, we ask you to continue to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, 7:30 on Sundays, Post Prison Podcast. You could also reach us by postprisonpodcast@gmail.com. Cynthia and Durell, appreciate you. Myesha, you already know what it is. D, thank you. Thank you for being strong Black women, and just keeping it all the way real. I appreciate y'all. So until next time, everybody, peace.
Peace out.
Every morning I wake up, all I know is get it. The OGs always told me what I start, I gotta finish. So I push it to the limit, so I can be the greatest. So I can look my family in their eyes and say we made it. Don't let life hand you nothing, you just gotta go take it. Always keep it 100, don't ever let me catch you faking. Keep a close eye on your circle.